Okay. Syed Ali Madanizadeh is Iran's current Minister of Economic Affairs and Finance, confirmed by the parliament on June 16, 2025. He's the second person to hold this position under President Masoud Pezeshkian's administration, replacing Abdel Nasser Hemati, who was impeached in March 2025. Madanizadeh is an economist and academic. He earned a master's degree in electrical engineering from Sharif University of Technology, a master's degree in computational mathematics from Stanford University in 2007, and a doctorate in economics from the University of Chicago in 2013. He was also awarded a bronze medal at the International Mathematical Olympiad in 2000. Ali Badani-Zadeh was born in 1982 after the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Therefore, he does not have any revolutionary credentials, which are generally critical to the legitimacy of government officials in the minds of hardline regime officials. Madanizadeh, however, belongs to a new generation of post-revolution technocrats who have risen within the system established after the revolution. Despite his Western education and his lack of political affiliation, Madanizadeh enjoys rare respect across the political spectrum. He is seen as more of an academic and a pragmatic economist than someone deeply entrenched in specific political factions that might have direct links to the old revolution. He is therefore considered to be a unifying figure in a polarized political landscape due to his religious background and enjoys a reputation for competence and integrity. Additionally, his appointment represents a break from the dominance of the first-generation revolutionaries and offers a rare sense of inclusion and possibility for the youth. Madanizadeh is also notable for not being tethered to political factions and enjoying rare respect across the political spectrum. He is therefore able to operate above partisan politics, focusing on technical solutions to economic problems. His areas of expertise include macroeconomics, monetary and fiscal policies, international trade, and industrial structures. He is known for advocating for gradual reforms to avoid economic shock therapy and for emphasizing the need for the Iranian economy to be prepared for sustained sanctions. He explicitly rejects radical free market experiments and advocates for gradual reforms to avoid the destabilizing effects of economic shocks. As Minister of Economic Affairs and Finance, his key priorities are curbing the budget deficit and reforming the banking sector, which are identified as two of Iran's most entrenched structural problems. These emphasize his intention to address fundamental issues rather than bring about superficial fixes for political purposes. For example, Madanizadeh has proposed a phased shift away from broad indirect subsidies toward a more targeted welfare model. This will require reallocating financial assistance directly to individuals through a more transparent system rather than subsidizing goods and services broadly. His strategy calls for a shift from import substitution to export promotion, which is a significant departure from Iran's historically insular economic model. This stipulates greater integration into the global economy and reliance on international trade. While he publicly supports nuclear negotiations and seeks sanctions relief, he also argues that the economy must be prepared for the possibility of sustained sanctions and continued isolation should negotiations fail. This nuanced and pragmatic stance acknowledges the realities of Iran's geopolitical situation. His ties to the Iranian diaspora and an emphasis on technology startups and the smart economy suggest a forward-looking vision for economic development. In essence, Madanizadeh's political and economic approach are characterized by a blend of academic expertise, pragmatic problem solving, and a focus on long-term structural reforms within the existing political framework, with an eye toward modernizing the economy and preparing it for both opportunities and challenges. Prior to his appointment as a minister, Madanizadeh was an associate professor of economics at Sharif University of Technology in Tehran, where he also served as its dean. There he specialized in macroeconomics, international trade, and industrial organization. He was also head of the modeling group at the Monetary and Banking Research Institute of the Central Bank of Iran, economic advisor at Iran's Planning and Budget Organization, a member of the Executive Board of the Information Technology Organization of Iran, a member of the Central Bank of Iran's Liquidity Committee, a member of the Monetary and Credit Council Commission, and director of major projects for reforming the budget structure and the Central Bank of Iran law, for which he was directly involved in drafting and reforming significant economic legislation. In these roles, he developed practical experience within Iran's economic policy-making bodies. For example, he outlined strategies such as curbing the budget deficit, reforming the banking sector, shifting to export promotion, and preparing the economy for sustained sanctions, which resonated with lawmakers looking for practical solutions to Iran's deep-rooted economic problems. As minister, his key priorities and strategies include curbing the budget deficit, which is one of Iran's most entrenched structural problems. To do so, he must achieve fiscal stability by bringing government spending in line with revenues. He intends to reform the banking sector, another critical structural issue. Considering Madanizadeh's experience drafting banking laws, he is expected to rein in underperforming banks, particularly private ones like Ayande Bank and Bank Pasargad, and to restructure these banks to restore financial stability. One of the most politically treacherous policies for Madanizadeh will be reforming the multi-tiered exchange rate system. The current structure penalizes exporters and distorts the economy by subsidizing imports. So, Madanizadeh aims to simplify and unify the exchange rate system, though it is widely expected that this effort will face resistance from vested interests. To shift the government's subsidy policy, Madanizadeh proposes moving away from broad indirect subsidies toward a more targeted welfare model. This strategy involves reallocating financial assistance directly to individuals through a more transparent and organized welfare system, rather than subsidizing goods and services broadly. To ease the transition, he recommends a package of compensatory cash transfers and a coordinated public awareness campaign. This, he hopes, will ease the fiscal burden on the government from inefficient subsidies. He also intends to roll back rigid price controls that have led to losses in industries like automobile manufacturing. To transition from Iran's historically insular economic model, Madanizadeh supports relying less on import substitution strategies and more on promoting exports. His goal here is to boost non-oil exports and integrate Iran more effectively into global trade. While acknowledging that geopolitical circumstances may prevent immediate full implementation, this remains a long-term strategic goal. Madanizadeh explicitly rejects radical free market experiments, advocating instead for gradual reforms to avoid the destabilizing effects of economic shock therapy. This approach is seen as wise given Iran's economic fragilities. While publicly supporting nuclear negotiations and sanctions relief, he argues that Iran's economy must be prepared for the possibility of sustained sanctions and continued isolation should negotiations fail. This indicates a dual strategy of seeking engagement while building internal resilience. In essence, Madanizadeh's strategies address both macroeconomic imbalances, such as budget, banking, and exchange rates, as well as microeconomic distortions, such as subsidies and price controls. They are designed to support a more resilient, export-oriented, and technologically advanced economy within the challenging context of sanctions and regional instability. Madanizadeh was appointed as Minister of Economic Affairs and Finance only a few weeks ago. But immediately after his appointment, he stated that Iran's economy remains stable despite recent geopolitical tensions and Israeli attacks. He emphasized that government economic operations and public services are continuing without disruption.